Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be doing my first ever book haul. Now normally I know book hauls are kind of between a span of time, for example a March book haul, but if I told you a span of time I got these books in, I would be lying. So I'm just going to say this is a book haul for books I've got very recently, which probably doesn't help because you're going to realize how much of a problem I have. The first books that I am going to haul are these beautiful editions of Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen, and also a copy of Sense and Sensibility. Now, I already have like 500 copies of this type of book, but I'm a huge Austen fan and they're so beautiful, I just couldn't help it. The colors and the textures are just so nice. To go along the same note of the previous books that I just showed you, I also got a different but equally beautiful copy of Pride and Prejudice. This is the one book that I probably have the most copies of, not only in like bound anthologies of Jane Austen's works, but individual copies, any type or any copy of Jane Austen's books, especially Pride and Prejudice I can get my hands on. I get these ones I got through the Book Depository, which ships worldwide for free, so if you haven't checked that website out, definitely give a look. To further emphasize my Jane Austen addiction, I also got this copy of Pride and Prejudice, which has like nice yellow and black tint. I have a problem. I also got this beautiful edition of Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. As you can kind of see, it has like this beautiful watercolor and ink work on it. This is what the front looks like. This is the back. Even the inside has some really beautiful artwork. Back. I believe that the publisher is going to do a bunch of classical books in this style, and I want every single one of them because, as you can see, they're very beautiful. So on to some books I don't already own 500 copies of. I also picked up Waylander and The King Beyond the Gate by David Gemmell. If you've been on my channel before, you would have noticed I did a review of Legend by David Gemmell, which is the first in the kind of Draenei series. These two follow up or are prequels. I can't recall off the top of my head, but they're all in the same world with some of the same characters, but also new ones. I'm really excited to kind of dig into these books because I was really pleasantly surprised by the first one. And just to throw you off, because I like jumping all over the place apparently, I also got this copy of Jane Eyre, which is like this cloth bound. You can't really tell from just looking at it, but it has a very beautiful texture to it. It comes with one of those little silk ribbons for the bookmark, which is good for me because I always put random objects in books as bookmarks. The next book I have is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. I'm not going to try to pronounce this author's name because I honestly know I will butcher it. This is one of those books that I've known about for a while and have planned to read for a while, and I've got so many recommendations about this book, but it's been kind of so highly regarded by so many people that I'm scared that I'm going to read it and not love it as much as everyone else has been. But I picked it up fairly recently and it's definitely at the top of my to-be-read list. The next books I have are the books in the Shiver series by Maggie Stiefvater. Now, I have this copy. I got the newer editions of them because I thought they were aesthetically more pleasing than the older versions. To be honest, I've heard a lot of negative things about this book series, but I'm the type of person where, although I respect and appreciate recommendations and critiques of other books, I have to read them for myself. I can say that I actually just read these books very recently, and I see where people were coming from. Still prefer them over Twilight. Sorry, Twilight fans. But I ended up falling in love with secondary characters in it more than the primary characters, which I find myself doing a lot lately. So, yeah, but they're still pretty, right? Pretty books. The next two books that I have are The Fallen Kingdoms and Rebel Spring, both by Morgan Rhodes. Now, I know a lot of people have read these books and said they're amazing, so I'm super excited to kind of dig into them. I haven't started reading them yet and don't know if I will really soon, just because I have this really bad habit of starting into book series where there's already like 3 books, but there's 3 more that need to be published, and then the most recent published one has an aggressive cliffhanger, and I always tell myself I'm not going to do that anymore and I'm going to stay away from them until they're all published, and then end up reading them anyways. So I'm probably going to end up reading these anyways. The next book I have is The Winter's Kiss by Maria Rutkowski. This just came out a couple days ago. I'm super excited to read it. I've been waiting for about a year for this book to come out, so I'm really excited to get into it. The next book I have is Grave Mercy, which is the first in the My Fair Assassin series. I've been meaning to read these for a while as well, and there's actually all 3 of these books are out to my knowledge, like the series is finished, so I don't feel as bad about reading them. I also have the second, Dark Triumph, and third, Mortal Heart. So after I finish The Winter's Kiss, this is probably the next book series I'm going to be reading. The next book I have is Shadow Scale by Rachel Hartman. Now, I read the first book in the series. It's called Seraphina. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it. I have mixed feelings about the first book because although it's an interesting idea for the concept of the type of dragons and the way the author presents them, there are a couple things that really irritated me about the first book as well. I'm not going to say what because I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, but I'm sure those of you who read it, the things that I'm talking about are pretty obvious. I was intrigued enough, though, that I plan on reading the second book to see where all the characters finish off. It's also a bit bizarre to me that there's only 2 books in the series. I'm used to there being either 1, a trilogy, or like more like 5 or 7 in a series instead of 2, so I'm also interested to see how the author kind of ties up everything within 2 books. I can't remember the last book series I've read that only had 2 books. Okay, I lied. The next books I'm going to haul are actually a set of 2, which are Teardrop by Lauren Kate, as well as Waterfall. Now, before any of you judge me for these book choices, I originally read the Fallen series by Lauren Kate when it first came out, so that was a few years ago, and I really loved the series at the time. I've reread it recently, don't love it as much now, but I just felt an obligation. I have this thing where when I've read an author's previous works and I loved it at some point, or even partially enjoyed it, that I'm going to give them another chance with another series. I've heard a lot of interesting things about this book, this set of books. This is another case where I actually read them fairly recently, and I kind of wish I would have left the books. There are obviously aspects of the series that I enjoy, like almost every book series I have read, or any book I have read. But the protagonist in the series, I really just wanted to punch in the throat, like the entire time I was reading it. And I don't even think it's been confirmed if this was just a series of 2, or if there was a 3rd book. I tried looking into it, and I couldn't really find any information anywhere, not even on the author's website. So I'm not too sure about that. The last book I'm going to haul, which I actually got around Christmas time, so this one isn't probably one of my most recent ones, but it is one I'm super excited to read, is 6 of Crows by Lou Bardugo. I am so in love with the Grisha trilogy, it's insane. I started reading it when it first came out, and it's such a unique idea, and there's such a rich universe and rich characters that it's probably one of my favorite book series of all times. Her writing is just amazing, the universe is just amazing, and on top of that, the aesthetic of this book is equally amazing. I mean, look at that. And it's all black. I think all authors just need to start doing black inked edges, because look at that. That's just beautiful. So that is the last book I have to haul for you today. Book hauls are probably going to be one of my most frequent videos I do because I buy a lot of books. I have a book hoarding problem. Let me know if you guys have read any of these books or plan on reading any of these books down in the comments down below. Thank you for tuning in to my first book haul, and if you liked what you watched today, please hit subscribe or like down below. Have a nice day, guys.